Bearded dragons are, without a shadow of doubt, probably the most common reptile that you will ever see in the reptile pet trade. And if you're curious about bearded dragons and you've been thinking about getting a bearded dragon yourself, here are 5 things I think you should know before getting a bearded dragon. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is a bearded dragon? Now, a bearded dragon is this. This is Aries. He is a bearded dragon. He is a normal scale citrus. Now, what does normal scale citrus mean? So a normal scale is basically the scaling that he has on his body is about normal. It's spiky, coarse, and citrus would be the color. Now, he doesn't look too citrusy right now. I mean, if you look at his head, he's pretty orange. But right now, he's still in deep shed. So he's going to look pretty dark right now. You see what he's doing right now is he's trying to get up to the highest spot that he can because he wants to bask. See what he's doing? It looks like he's looking at the camera, but what he's actually looking at is he's looking at my ring light that I have set up. Now let me see if we can get him to go that way. Yeah, look, see? He's trying to get closer. Now see, now he'll probably chill about here. He might go a little bit higher up on my hand. But yeah, this is the thing about beardies that a lot of people like, is that they are very chill animals. Their temperament isn't very high. I mean, you can get some beardies with attitude, but I mean, Aries, he's pretty chill. So then going back to what I was saying about him being a normal scale citrus. Now those are the morphs that he's got. He's also he's het for leatherback, meaning he has a recessive trait for leatherback, which is a scaling morph, where like, so if you see here, he's got a lot of scales here. If he was leatherback, he would actually have some reduced scaling. Hey, buddy, you're okay. Now, like I said, he's in deep shed right now, so he's still pretty dark. And so once he actually kind of sheds all this stuff that's on his back, he'll look a lot more like the coloring that's on his head. Yeah, so morphs are more refer to the physical, visible genetic traits that they have. So he's a citrus, meaning he's yellowy orange, you know what I mean? And then normal means he has normal scaling. If he was a translucent, his eyes would be black, he would have translucent nails, and also his belly would be pretty kind of not super see-through, like you can't see into the dragon obviously, but that's what it is their belly is a little transparent. You can kind of see like a bluish hue to it. Again, he's a normal, so he doesn't really have he's not translucent. And there's a whole huge list of morphs that are out there. There's some breeders out there doing some pretty crazy breeding projects. I'll throw some up on the screen for you right now, and you can get some pretty gnarly looking dragons, some really cool ones, some really simple ones. But all right, so let's get into the 5 things. So number 5 is going to be temperament. Bearded dragons are called the king of chill for a reason. They are very chilled out. They don't really bite that much. They'll still bite if they feel threatened, but I have yet to own a single bearded dragon that has actually ever bitten me. They can get pretty defensive if they're feeling stressed, which honestly, if your bearded dragon is feeling that, is showing that, if he's kind of flaring his beard up and he's going, you know, he's got his mouth open, leave him alone, or her alone. Just let them chill. Try not to bug them. All right. Because again, these are reptiles, you know, you don't want to stress them out too much. Reptiles are very susceptible to stress. And like Pascal, my veiled chameleon, I'm trying to tame him down, but he is still he's very cage dependent. Like once I get him out of his enclosure, he kind of chills out, but he's still anytime I try to get near him, he just kind of, what's up? What are you doing in here? You know, but this isn't about veiled chameleons. This is about bearded dragons. So if you're looking to get yourself a reptile that there really isn't a high chance of getting bitten, a bearded dragon is definitely the way to go. Number 4 is going to be their environment, is where they come from, and like what you need to do to kind of simulate where these dragons kind of natively come from, and that's going to be Australia. So the Australian bush is an arid place. So a lot of people, what they end up doing when they get bearded dragons is they'll throw just sand in there, some rocks, and they'll call it good. Well, the thing is the bush does have trees. The bush has trees, bark all over the place. There are some bearded dragons that do live in the desert area, but they're not just in the desert. They do roam around to where there are some trees, because again, these are animals that like to bask. They get up on top of like fence posts, they get on top of trees, fallen trees that have branches that stick up, and they'll get up there, they'll bask, they'll get their energy that they need to hunt, and then they'll go out and hunt and get their food. So what I always recommend that people do, if you're gonna go with a loose substrate, which I do use a loose substrate, what I do is I try to set up my enclosures to give the animal variety, a variety of different textures. So in mine right now, I am gonna be adding some excavator clay to it pretty soon, but what I have in there now is I have a cocoa fiber substrate, and then on the other side I have a little bit of a sand mat exposed. So, and then he also has a piece of cork bark in there. He also has some smooth stone in there, just a bunch of different things for him to kind of get into and just kind of experience something different, so he gets some fulfillment. Because that's the main thing about reptiles, that you don't want to stick these animals in a basically a box and then just don't give them anything. Like, yeah, give them some UVB, give them some heat, and call it good. Because I mean, how would you feel if you were just stuck into a box and occasionally some food get dropped in there for you? It'd be pretty sad. You need some stuff to do. Like, yeah, this is my enclosure, but I have my computer, I have you guys, I have my reptiles. So giving your reptiles stuff to do, or at least some stuff to interact with, is gonna definitely increase not the longevity of your reptile, but just, I mean, it'll definitely probably increase how long they live, but also just make them a happier dragon, essentially. In addition to that, so when it comes to the temperature of their tank, you do want a hot side and a cool side. So on the cool side, what you're going to want to do is have that kind of in the mid 70s to 80s, and then on the hot side, like the basking spot itself should be about 110-ish degrees, and then, you know, like down on the bottom be about 90 to like 100, and then, you know, give them that contrast, because your dragon itself will move to whatever spot is what they need for that moment. And the humidity for their enclosures, you're gonna want it to be under 40, about 40% humidity. If it creeps up to 44%, don't, you know, lose your mind or anything. Okay, just kind of do what you can to kind of bring down that humidity. You know, if you're leaving a water dish in there, I don't recommend leaving a water dish in there with your beardies, because that water is going to evaporate and it's going to increase the humidity in there. Plus, every other time I've tried using water dishes, all they do is poop in it. But yeah, save water dishes and stuff like that for when you pull them out of the enclosure and put them in, like, I use I sterilized one of my daughter's old like small toy bins that she had for like her shapes and her letters and stuff. I sterilized one of those and I just put him in there. I mean, he's not going to fit in it forever. I definitely gonna have to get something bigger. I know people who use cat litter boxes that, not used, okay, but these cat litter boxes, or they'll just put their dragons in their tubs. Now, again, with that, I would definitely caution, because make sure it's sterilized and clean, because again, your reptiles are super sensitive to, you know, getting sick. So you don't want to just put them in anything, fill it up with water, and hope for the best. Also, when it comes to giving your bearded dragon a bath, as far as the water level goes, you want to fill it up to where it just kind of gets to their shoulder pads. If you don't know what their shoulder pads look like, there you go. So yeah, you want the water just that high. You don't want the water too high. You don't, because I don't really think they can swim. I'll have to double check on that. I don't think they can, but yeah, you don't want to drown your dragon, okay? You want it just just at their shoulders. And then if you see your bearded dragon drinking their bath water, don't freak out. That's honestly the only way I can get Aries to drink his water is during his baths. So yeah. So number 3 is something I actually just kind of found out, because again, I've never used a loose substrate before this. They dig. Like, I knew females would dig to lay their eggs and stuff, but they will. So the first night that he was here, and I wish I would have gotten a picture, because now he kind of goes behind his branch and his hammock, and he digs back there. But they'll dig, and he actually buried the top part of his body to sleep. Like, and it wasn't that it wasn't dark in here. I came in here to check on him because, again, like, brand new animal, I really need to go take a look at him. Yeah, he had the whole like front part of his body just underneath the substrate, and that made me nervous. I kept checking on him throughout the night, and yeah, he was fine. He was still breathing, and then I checked on him the next morning, and he was just kind of like, "What's up?" So yeah, they dig, and yeah, I never knew that before. Number 2 is that they are omnivores. They don't just eat insects. They don't just eat vegetables. They will eat both, and they need both. So make sure you kind of, you're doing that for your dragon. Okay, because there are some people who will only give their bearded dragons fruit, and they develop, that's how you get your fat beardies. Sometimes they'll only give them vegetables, and they can do very well on strictly vegetables, but they will definitely prosper a bit more if you add some insects to those. And then again, only giving them insects when they're as an adult, they're not getting all the vitamins that they need. They're not getting all the water that they need. So a varied diet, just like us, a varied diet does this very well. And this will change as they grow up as well. So when they're younger, you're going to want to be doing like roughly about 70% insects to 30% vegetables and fruits. So he's about 5 months old, and I'm starting that transition to about 50% insects and 50% fruits and vegetables. And then once he hits about a year, it's going to be more like 70% fruits and vegetables and 30% insects. Everybody's bearded dragon is different. So my last bearded dragon, baby dragon, he did not like fruits and vegetables. I had to try every trick I knew to get him to eat his vegetables. And I mean, he loved watermelon, but it was literally the only fruit I could get him to eat. He didn't like carrots. He didn't like anything. So that's always something you have to keep in mind, is that every dragon is going to be different. And when they're in that 4 to 6 months range, they can act like stubborn teenagers that don't want to eat their vegetables. So don't feel like something's wrong with your dragon just because they're not eating vegetables. Everybody goes through it. And before we get to number 1, I do want to kind of give like a honorable mention or something. Cohabiting. Okay? Do not cohabit your dragons. That is bad juju. You are asking for trouble doing that. I understand if you have a male and a female and you put them in a tank and you're trying to get baby beardies, but I wouldn't even leave the male and the female in a tank together for too long. Okay? Bearded dragons are very territorial, and it spells a whole lot of bad news for you. Just save yourself a whole lot of trouble and trauma and not do that, okay? No. And number 1 is going to be their lifespan. So what's really nice about bearded dragons is that they do have a pretty long lifespan. It averages anywhere from 10 to 15 years. I had a friend whose beardy lasted, I think, lived to be about 17, I think. Yeah. So when you get a bearded dragon, it is going to be a long-term commitment. Okay, and if you take care of your bearded dragon, you supply their needs, and take good care of your dragon, and he or she will live a very long time. I keep saying he because I have 2 male reptiles. So sorry. All right, guys, so that is my list of 5 things as to why I think bearded dragons are definitely some of the better reptiles to definitely start out with. Bearded dragons are, I love bearded dragons a lot. You know, they're very interesting animals. And again, for somebody, if you're somebody who's just starting to get into like the whole reptile world, in my opinion, right up there with the ball python. You can't go wrong. Very easy to take care of, and I mean, just look at him. He is very energetic. But all right, guys. Well, I got to get him into a bath. So we're gonna go ahead and say goodbye. I'm Zach. This is Aries. We'll see you guys in the next video. Say bye.